Hey guys, I'm back. And again, it's very late in the morning. It's like 3:30. And so I am not going to be able to talk very loud. But I just want to talk about a few things. The other day I brought up, the bleeding thing that happened. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the past video. But there's so many patterns I notice in myself. And one of the patterns was I had been eating very healthy and exercising on a daily basis. And then that happened. And I go back immediately to my old pattern, which was I left the house right afterwards and went to Taco Bell and got 5 tacos and then got a second pack of cigarettes. And I laid in bed and I ate the tacos and then I proceeded to smoke chain smoke cigarettes while looking at my ceiling. And that's something I personally have to work on. I don't know if any one of you out there find that the second something comes up that causes fear in you, that you go back to a pattern. I have talked to a friend before who's a smoker, and even the person that I live with, and it's interesting because of the ridiculousness of the pattern. For example, if you have pain inside your lung and you breathe and it hurts, you think to yourself, oh, I hope I'm not getting emphysema or lung cancer. Let me smoke a cigarette and think about this for a while. The very thing that is causing the thing that you're scared of is the thing that you're doing, is my point. And yet you continue to repeat this pattern. And these patterns in people can be relationship patterns, family patterns, food patterns, substance abuse patterns. They're all patterns. And each of us have different ones. And it's important that even if you're not stopping your pattern at this time, to recognize your pattern. Only when you recognize the pattern can you at least attempt to change it, analyze yourself in it. If you don't see the pattern that you're trapped in, it's difficult at that point to move forward because you don't see what you're doing. You don't see what you're creating. You don't see what you're allowing to have happen to you. I've come to learn over the years that we're not all the same. We're all the same in certain ways, but yet we're not all the same in other ways. There's belief systems, there is subconscious minds that do certain things, and you can look at someone and say, I can't believe that they're continuing to do that, or I can't believe that they're behaving this way, and yet it works out for them, and it would never work out, for you. A book I had mentioned before, which I won't again because I've already done it multiple times, but it's interesting because, and also some news articles that I've read, so I'll mix them both together. There was a man in the United Kingdom, and he went and had a colonoscopy done, and they said that he had cancer, and he asked for 3 months to do his own thing, and then he would do mainstream treatment, and they said no. They were very concerned. And they finally said, well, I guess to humor him, they said they'd give him a month, and in that month he did nothing but juice fruits and vegetables. He ate nothing solid, and so he juiced, and he pictured a white light surrounding his body and healing him, and he felt like he was going to pass out, because all he was drinking was, fresh fruit juices. And when he went back for his colonoscopy, the cancer was gone. And so it was documented in the journal that he was, they were going to investigate, how that happened or why that happened. And then we have someone else who developed lung cancer, and he did not eat healthy. He didn't do anything healthy at all. In fact, he got very angry, and he smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And when his cancer popped up, he believed that he would die, and so he got annoyed, and he started smoking twice as many cigarettes. So he smoked 4 packs of cigarettes a day. And while he was doing that, he started to feel better. And his lung cancer went away from smoking the 4 packs of cigarettes. There's a very important thing with placebo effect, where when it comes to antidepressants, chemotherapy, radiation, everything, that there's a part of our mind that we haven't yet learned how to control. And there's many people who believe that chemotherapy will cure them, and so it does. And there's people who believe that chemotherapy will kill them, and it does. And when it causes a negative effect in you, it's called nocebo. Now, this is not to say that none of these drugs do anything. Most certainly they do things. But that's why they always have the control studies, because there is a placebo. Some people can take a sugar pill to get nauseated, other ones to get headaches. But these are all inert substances that they're taking when they're taking the placebo pill. But yet they have reactions. Some of them even get better, and their tumors shrink, and cancer, and everything when they're not getting nothing but saline solution. So it's interesting to think about things like that. When it comes to antidepressants, there has been, in most studies, the placebo has equaled the percentage of people who have also got better from the antidepressant. There has been studies that show that people who were forced to exercise outperformed Zoloft compared to people who were on Zoloft and did not exercise. And they even did better than the people who were on Zoloft and exercised. So just the people who exercised in that Zoloft study were way better when they didn't take anything at all. I believe it was Prozac that had to submit things multiple times. They were allowed to cherry pick which things they submitted to the FDA because a lot of their studies showed that the placebo did better or equal to Prozac. And then they found the ones that showed that Prozac was better. And that was allowed to be submitted, and the other ones were allowed to be ignored, and then Prozac hit the market. So around the same time that an amino acid was pulled from the market that was supposed to do the same thing, and they pulled it because a Japanese manufacturer, it had been contaminated, and some people got sick and died from the contamination. But the other manufacturers were still, producing things that were clean and not contaminated. But instead, the United States pulled the entire amino acid off the market in supplement form by itself. It was still included in like a multi-amino acid, but it was not included by itself. And within a matter of weeks, I think it wasn't maybe a month, that they pulled that Prozac was on time in front of, on the cover of Time magazine. So there's all that. I find that a lot of times people question what I say, what I watch, and the point is you should be watching everything. You should be watching things you don't even disagree with, things that you don't believe in. You should watch, and the reason why, which I had said recently to someone on Facebook, is unless you're listening to both sides of the controversy, or both sides, or all sides of a situation, you cannot be balanced. You cannot make a proper decision. You can't say, I believe all pharmaceuticals are bad, therefore I will not listen to anything that is done by the pharmaceutical community. Because if you do that, you're blocking out potential wisdom that could help you. You're also blocking out, by not listening, counter arguments that you could use against them, because you'll know exactly what they say. So it's helpful. The next thing I want to talk about is I have a lot of fear, mainly because I now know that there's certain things that I'm going to make myself do that causes fear in me. I had mentioned the colonoscopy. Some people that's no big deal. To me, it's a big deal. I'm very informed on all the negative effects that can happen from it. And because I know that, someone going in not knowing certain things about the procedure, they wouldn't have that concern because they don't know, what it is. And if nothing ever happened to them, then fine. If something did, they would think, well, they'd be upset because they didn't know that could happen. So when I do those things, I get very anxious because I know a lot of the possibilities of things. I also know that the possibility is, pretty good that I'll be okay. It's kind of like when I had my appendectomy. I was in a lot of pain, and I am very aware of the dangers of CT scans. And of course, there is a small risk when you have an appendectomy that it can kill you. However, this is what you got to go by. you're going to die unless you have an appendectomy when it gets that far. And, um, you know, it, you just make that choice. It's like, okay, well, I'll probably be dead within the next 24 hours if I don't do this. So it's easier to risk the maybe death. And I went with that with my lung surgery as well. They told me in June that they were going to do the surgery in August of 2000, and that there was a certain risk factor, which I can't remember the exact percentage, with the particular lung surgery I had. I believe it was 10%, maybe 8%, that I would die. And I said, well, what if I don't, do the surgery? And they said, oh, you'll be dead by October. Well, I'll be dead by October, so I'll roll the dice with the 10%, whatever it was, and do the surgery. And of course, the surgery I survived and went well. It could be a cofactor in some of the things that go on now, but then again, I would have been dead in October of 2000. So you have to make choices with what choices that are best for the time. Just like the CT scan. A lot of people don't know that a CT scan is a pretty significant risk for cancer later in life. What the doctors say is, and I understand their point of view, I can't worry about what's going to happen to the person 20 years from now if they're going to be dead in the next couple of days. So in my case, yes, the CT scan could possibly cause my demise in 20 years. The concern is this doctor has to open me up, and he needs to go in not blind, and to make sure that it's my appendix and not something else that's a blockage or some other type of thing going on that they could spot with the CT, and then end up harming me because they did not do that particular test. So these are all things that you have to consider, and it sucks because there's no guarantees in life. The other thing that I would like to do, and this scares me, because I said before, I don't know if the person I live with would just get up and leave me, and I only have my father left. My mother's passed away, and I had said before, I'm not happy, where I live, and I'm also not getting the proper medical treatment where I live, and this is very obvious to me, at this point. If any of you have listened to all my videos where, quote unquote, I'm complaining all the time, I need to move away from here, and that's frightening for me because some of the places that would be best at physically for the problems that I have are sometimes places I can't afford and places that I wouldn't want to live. For example, San Diego would be a very good place for me. I can't afford to live there, so therefore I cannot go to San Diego. Possibly Chicago, but again, expensive. Although the person I talked to out in that area where he lives, it's kind of comparable to where I live now. One of the better places would be North Carolina. But again, being that I'm gay, I want to put myself into a Bible Belt section of the country. I have lived in those type of places before, and while I never personally had a problem, there is concerns that I have with certain things and certain rights that I would have, or certain perceived rights that I would not be given because it's not an area that might be friendly towards me. One of my concerns, of course, is getting a doctor someday who doesn't have a belief system that allows him to be accepting of who I am, and I don't want to have him not take extra caution with me as he would with everyone else, because after all, I'm someone that he despises, or I'm someone that he doesn't agree with, and so therefore I'd be no significant loss in this world if I was injured, and I'm the one who has to pay the penalty for that and not him, because there'd be no way to prove anything like that. So these are just things that are rattling around, but if any of you can think of, as far as me moving, like what would be good, smart options for me, and how I could be settled properly. The person I live with would need a job that at least pays $11 an hour, as long as the monthly rent wasn't more than $740 for a 2-bedroom. If it didn't include utilities. If it included utilities minus electric, then up to $820, which is what I pay now. would be comparable. I can't go much above it because as of now, I am in the poorhouse, but I know that I can balance these certain numbers. Like right now, my rent's $820. That includes heat and hot water. It doesn't include electric. So in the winter, my electric's very cheap. In the summer, it can get as high as $265 a month. We don't pay for trash removal, here, which is good. And then, of course, we have cable, which is always negotiable. Cable's not a necessity. And I have a Magic Jack phone now. I had dropped Verizon, and I have a prepaid cell phone. So these are all things. And of course, I need internet for obvious reasons. It's one of the things that I use to teach myself, one of the things that I use to communicate with people and try to reach out to them and everything. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that when people say, you can't be that sick if you have time to be online, I had pointed out to someone recently who made that comment that my mother, who was dying of cancer and ultimately had a stroke and died, was well enough to go to Walmart and was well enough to watch TV. And a friend of mine who is quadriplegic is on the internet all the time. It doesn't mean you're not sick. I can't necessarily just decide tomorrow at 3 o'clock I'll make a video. It's when I feel well enough to do so. Also, it's not like my life is gloom and doom. I laugh on a daily basis. I have good moments. My focal point is this. What I wish to teach is this, that you're not alone, that there are a certain population of us that have problems, and how to think, navigate, learn, gain wisdom, compassion, all those things is what I hope to, lead someone to. And that can be anyone. I guess the thing that I hope for the most is if you watch 6 of my videos and then you don't really like me, that I said something that on your path brings you to Amazon to get a book, or brings you to a different website, or makes you think through your hatred towards me or through your compassion, love towards me, and keeps you going to find the answers that you need. My answers will never be your answers necessarily. There's some universal dangers along the way that I hope that in some of my videos I have mentioned, and some that I'm sure that I've missed and yet to experience myself. I guess one of my concerns is that as it stands now, if I make a wrong decision for my health and drop dead from a test, or drop dead from a medication, or pick the wrong medication and end up sick because I didn't know enough about it, that I will cut my own story, my own path short. And it's not what I want. I want to ultimately get through what I'm going through. I want to continue on and hope that there's a better thing at the end, although I don't think that anything will ever be perfect, and because of this, I don't think life is perfect. I don't think that any of us will have a hayride all the way through to the end. At least most of us. Maybe some people are really lucky, or maybe that is their life path for this life, to have that easy breeze on through, life. And maybe I've already had that for myself, or maybe I have yet to have it. It doesn't mean I necessarily believe in reincarnation, but it's a thought that I play with in my head. So my goal mostly is to teach people, make people think, even if it makes them think through disliking me. That's all I can say for now. But anyway, I'm going to get going. The video is like almost 20 minutes long, and I'll make another video soon. But yeah, if you have ideas about doctors, or where I can move, or how I can pull this off, and how to deal with the guilt factor of leaving my father after my mother's death, and the insecurity of being left alone in another state, and can I really pull that off? All these things, and if you've gone through it, especially yourself, please give me some information on that. I don't always write back the emails. I pointed out a great deal in the past of why I don't, but I do read every single one of them, even if they're extremely hurtful. I still read them, so know that if you write me, I read it. And, all right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Hey guys, I'm back. And again, it's very late in the morning. It's like 3:30. And so I am not going to be able to talk very loud. But I just want to talk about a few things. The other day I brought up, the bleeding thing that happened. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the past video. But there's so many patterns I notice in myself. And one of the patterns was I had been eating very healthy and exercising on a daily basis. And you think to yourself, oh, I hope I'm not getting emphysema or lung cancer. Let me smoke a cigarette and think about this for a while. The very thing that is causing the thing that you're scared of is the thing that you're doing, is my point. And yet you continue to repeat this pattern. And these patterns in people can be relationship patterns, family patterns, food patterns, substance abuse patterns. And then that happened, and I go back immediately to my old pattern, which was I left the house right afterwards and went to Taco Bell and got 5 tacos and then got a second pack of cigarettes, and I laid in bed and I ate the tacos, and then I proceeded to smoke, chain smoke cigarettes while looking at my ceiling. And that's something I personally have to work on. I don't know if any one of you out there find that the second something comes up that causes fear in you, that you go back to a pattern. I have talked to a friend before who's a smoker, and even the person that I live with, and it's interesting because of the ridiculousness of the pattern. For example, if you have pain inside your lung and you breathe and it hurts, they're all patterns, and each of us have different ones. And it's important that even if you're not stopping your pattern at this time, to recognize your pattern. Only when you recognize the pattern can you at least attempt to change it, analyze yourself in it. If you don't see the pattern that you're trapped in, it's difficult at that point to move